Good afternoon, happy Sunday, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Labor Matters. I'm your host, Daisy Mukukamlenga. Now, we've been receiving interesting feedback from you guys that have been watching. So in case you know somebody who's still lagging behind in all things to do with employment, do tell them that a show that caters for everything around employment has started, right? Yes, even you, if you're one person that has question marks about your job, this is the right show for you. Now, Labor Matters comes to you every Sunday around this time, and we'll be dissecting different types of topics relating to labor matters. Now, to understand it further, I'm not an expert, so we do have an expert in the field who's a leadership and management advisor, Mr. Owen Kabanda. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Desi.
Good to have you.
Good to see you too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the topic for today is terms of employment. Last week, we did dissect the issues surrounding career management, and also before that, we did talk about employment. The base of the whole conversation on this particular platform is centering around employment. Last week, we did talk about career management, and based on the questions that we've been receiving from the public, we did think it is wise for us to dive into things to do with terms of employment. Now, don't despair, because at the end of the show, we're going to answer all those questions that came through last week, especially questions surrounding probation. Now, please don't despair, yeah? Let's just dive into it first. So let's talk about the terms of employment first, and then we'll tackle the questions that each and every one of you sent through to us. Mr. Kabanda, so we're talking about terms of employment today, right?
Yes.
Maybe what we can start by understanding, because we do know to say when you start a job, you have to have a contract. Mm-hmm. But some of us don't even know what has to be in that particular contract. So maybe you can help us understand what a contract is, then we get into the meat of today's conversation.
Thank you very much, Desi. So when, and again, these are questions that have also been coming where some are saying we've been working, we don't have contracts, and they don't understand even what should be in those contracts. And as you've mentioned, the issues around probation. So it's a great thing. We'll try to dissect those mm-hmm. things. So to begin with, like we've been saying, when the employee has applied for employment and they're hired, what then starts from there? There's a creation of an employment relationship. Now that employment relationship is governed by an employment contract. So in very simple, basic terms, an employment contract or a contract of employment or a contract of service simply means the employee and the employer, they have entered into an agreement. Mm-hmm. They have both agreed. One has agreed to work for the other person, and this other one has agreed to pay. So it's a very simple, basic principle around the contract of employment. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that also people ask, some they'll say, I've worked for 3 months, 5 months, the contract I don't have a contract, I'm just working. It's important to understand that there are two different types of contracts. You can have an oral contract, you can also have a written contract. So oral contract simply means the two people, the employee and the employer, they have come to some agreement. So if you and I agree on something, even if it's not written down, that is an agreement in itself. Mm-hmm. It's a contract. So even for employees, when if you are an employee, you go and look for a job, and then the boss says, oh, start reporting tomorrow. You'll be working from 8 to 17, and I'll pay you 2,500 every month. That is an agreement. That employer has committed to paying you. Also, you as an employee have been told, in terms of expectation, you need to report for work from this period to that period, and then the employer starts to give the employee work from each day. So that in itself creates this agreement, and it is a contract on its own. Mm-hmm. So the key thing is, if somebody, for instance in Zambia, if somebody is going to work for more than 6 months, it is advisable that this agreement that they have should be in writing. Hence, now you have an issue of a written contract. Mm-hmm. But even before we come to the written contract, the oral contracts, these agreements that are entered into, when you go to the employment code, there is a provision there in the first schedule in terms of the details. even if it is oral, it's a requirement that you also put things in writing. And this is where people get very confused that, but it's oral, why are we agreeing, why are we writing things? Because even if it is an oral contract, the law requires that you put certain things in writing so that the rates are agreed, when these payments will be made, and there's a simple form, and where people need help, there are consultants who do help with that, including the Minister of Labour. They can simply go there. So that oral contract will still be, there are some details that have to be captured on paper. Mm-hmm. So the one we talked about is a written contract. So in the written contract, the law requires that you itemize certain details. The contract itself, which is in writing, it needs to be an enforceable contract. What that means is that the very fact that you as a business owner, you can come up with a contract and you give someone, and because of desperation, remember, employment is difficult to come by. So people end up signing for all sorts of things. But if that contract is not made in line with the law, mm-hmm. then it cannot be enforced. So you have a paper, and this, when we meet with the business owners, sometimes they say, no, but you see, I have this agreement, I have this contract with these employees. Now these employees are complaining, and Labour Office is saying this and that this contract is not good. Of course it is, if the contract is not made in line with the law. No matter what, if you put in things there which are contrary to the law, for instance, you put that the person has to work almost every day, that will be against the law. The law says you should give someone 2 days if they meet those conditions, and you're giving them 1 day. It can't work. You say no, because the 25% gratuity, 25% of the basic pay is too much for me. I can only give maybe 10%. And you put all those things in the contract. That contract cannot be enforced because it is giving things that are below the minimum requirements in terms of the contractual obligations that the employer has in line with the law. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to contracts, and the things we advise business owners, employers, and human resource practitioners, that they should make sure that the contract is made in such a way that it is in line with the law. And also for the employees, those employees who are watching us, it's important that when they receive a contract, they make sure, and you know, one of the things over the years in our HR practice, what we see is that when you give someone a contract, what is the first thing they will do? They go straight to the salary. Oh, yeah. They check the salary, sign. Yeah. Now, what that means is that now you have a bigger problem. Of course, it's a difficult thing, especially if someone has been looking for employment for a long time. They have really suffered, and especially those who have even, you know, family obligations. As a man or a woman, you know, you have to provide for your family, and you have gone for 3, 4, 5 years without a job. It's been a very difficult situation. And then someone comes and offers you 3,500 or 5,000 or 10,000 or 50,000, whatever amount. At that point, people don't read whatever is in that document. All they want and all they are seeing is this new salary sorting out their problems. Daisy, I can tell you, it is not an easy thing. I've been in this HR practice where sometimes you see even old people. They come and they are kneeling before you, crying for a job. So in such circumstances, when somebody is given a job, they care less about what is the kind of the contents in that document. Mm-hmm. But what we are saying is, despite your situation, it's important that somebody takes time to read the contract. And where they don't understand certain things, the law requires that the HR in those companies, the employer, they have a legal obligation. So it's not even like it's a fashion or it's a good thing to do. It's not a good thing to do. It's a requirement that the employer, in this case it could be HR, explains the terms and conditions of service, what is contained in that contract. So it's important to understand that the employee, when they are entering into employment, they understand what to apply to them. Mm-hmm. They should also understand what type of contract they're actually getting into, because the type of contract could also affect even the various things that will apply to them. We have, for instance, under the law, we have the contracts like the probationary contract. I know this probation issue There are so many questions that were coming around it. Sometimes you can have a contract that is just for 3 months. It's called probationary contract. Now, when that contract is given, the person is being assessed. Thereafter, they can be given a long-term contract or whatever type of other contract. So for probationary contracts, they are given simply for purposes of assessing the new employee. And we'll talk in detail about probation itself and what applies, how the assessments be done. But for now, I'm talking about contracts. You have the probationary contract. You can also have a permanent contract. So when someone signs up on a permanent contract, what that means is that they have started a job and their job is only ending when they reach retirement age, for instance, 65 years. Mm-hmm. So again, because this is a permanent job, you find that certain things might not apply, things like gratuity, okay? But the employee will still be entitled to all the other things, the leave days, the maternity, the Mother's Day, and all those kind of things. So sometimes it's important to take time to understand, so that, remember, as we said in the other episode, that when you get a job, you need to take it as a business, or it's a way that you're also going to make money. So if you're in permanent job, what does this mean? Mm-hmm. Okay. The other type of contract that we can talk about is also the long-term contract. So now the long-term contract is a contract that's beyond 12 months. Now, with this type of contract, you are talking of the 2-year contract, your 3-year contracts, your 5-year contract, depending on the contract that has been given and the period, but that period should be more than 12 months. Mm. Now, in the long-term contract, one of the key features you'll find in that one is that you find a provision for 25% of the basic pay being paid as gratuity, okay? And that should cover the period of service. It will be prorated when it comes to calculations. So it means if you have that long-term contract, even if you work for 1 day or 2 days, they will have to calculate how much you have earned in terms of gratuity, and you get paid. If you're on a 5-year contract and you only serve for 3 years, the 3 years you have served will be calculated, and you get paid your gratuity. So there are all these things that are important to understand when somebody gets a job, so that they know, an employee should know what to apply to them. And coming to the issue of now the terms of employment, in these contracts, there are key things that you will look at, you might need to see, and it's important for employees to understand. Mm-hmm. First of all, there are standard templates for contracts that can be made. The law has actually provided for minimum requirements or minimum contents that we should see in a contract. As I said, people should not just wake up and say, no, I've given this person a contract. If that contract is not in line with the law, it will not be enforced. So the key things is you should have clear details of the employer. Who is exactly the employer? And we have said this before. That employer needs to be reflected. This is even more of a challenge for companies which have subsidiaries and so on. So as an employee, be sure to read, who is my employer? Where is the location of this employer? What is the core business of this employer? It has to be on the contract. Then you should have also employee details. The employee has to be identified. If it is John Banda, like for these colleagues of mine from the East, John Banda, you can have 10 John Bandas. Yeah. So there has to be a full name, and then the NRC to specify if you are male or female, residence, even the National Pension Scheme number. So there has to be some level of detail in terms of what you capture for the employee, because that employee should be identified. And remember, those details, and we're talking about these things because they affect other things as you are doing your job. The details around NAPSA will be important for you to have your, remember now we're talking of the 20% partial withdrawal. Now if you didn't register your proper NRC, and these are some of the challenges some people are having, or the employer didn't do the right thing, they didn't remit, that at the beginning of the employment, the employee should submit their copies of NRCs, so that is now captured. Your correct NRC, correct NAPSA, correct TIPIN with ZRA, then the same NRC will be used even for registration with the NIMA for health benefits. So it's important that there is focus on making sure that you have captured the right details about the employee. There are also issues around the terms of employment. What is actually agreed in here? So the contract will show you when is the start date and when is the end date. We have some people, they will come and say, no, but me, they just said you can come anytime next week. You can't run a company like that. There has to be a specific date when the employee starts work. And that's why in many cases, and depending, you are given actually what are called engagement forms. So the contract will tell you, you start on the 1st of, let's say, 1st of June. And if it is the contract for 2 years, it will tell you when it ends. If it's a permanent contract, it will also tell you your contract starts from 1st June until such a day you reach your retirement age. So there has to be clear start date and end date. There has to be clear job title. What are you being called? So those are key things that should be found in a contract. Then the salary you are getting paid. What are you actually getting paid? I know there have been also some discussions in the background where people want to talk about salaries. We'll have a full session around it so that we cover what does a basic pay mean, full pay, all the allowances that are given. But in the contract for today, we want to emphasize the contract should stipulate what exactly is your full pay. And how do we break this one? Well, how much is the basic pay? That is without allowances. Then what allowances are you actually entitled to? For instance, lunch, transport, housing. If there are any other allowances, they should be clearly tabulated in that contract. Otherwise, what you have is a situation where you don't know as an employee what exactly will come to you, and that doesn't help you very much. It has to also tell you which period you are going to work, because if you work beyond certain hours, then things like overtime start to kick in. Even simple things as your workplace. Which one is your workplace? Because those things also affect other things. If you're going to be, your workplace is a certain place in Lusaka, and then the company is sending you to Livingstone or to Copperbelt, then there are obligations on the employer to maybe facilitate your transport, your accommodation, where you're going to be. So those things need to be in the contract. Otherwise, it becomes very, very difficult. So that's why we are saying the terms of employment need to be very, very clear. It has to stipulate when do you take your day off, when do you rest, how many leave days are you going to have, issues of Mother's Day, issues of maternity for women, issues around the paternity leave for men and things like that. Now, sometimes you will not find all these things in one document. Sometimes the way contracts are made, it will refer you to a particular document. Okay? So the contract may say you shall be entitled to all conditions of service as provided for in the company's conditions of service. So you go and refer to that, and that document will be part of the contract. Disciplinary matters, it might refer to disciplinary code, which is a standalone document. So key to it is, as an employee, what we are saying is take time, understand what this contract is about, what terms will apply to you, so that at the very beginning you even know, by the time you are coming to look at issues around probation, these things would have been known way in advance. Because at the very beginning, the employer also even needs to show you your duties. Remember, they will affect your probation. So sometimes in companies, because things move very fast, they will simply tell, okay, report on Monday. You come on Monday. No, someone will tell you what to do. There has to be some level of organization. Either you will be given a job description, and in that job description it will stipulate what your duties will be, who you'll be reporting to, or if there are people reporting to you, what will be your key duties, your deliverables and timelines and things of that nature. Yeah. So all those, they form part of the terms. But in certain cases where the job description is not given, you will again find in certain contracts it will say your duties shall be as assigned by your immediate supervisor, who then tells you as you go on. But eventually, there has to be some level of creation of job descriptions, or what are called key performance indicators, or they give you key targets to achieve. So when they give you key targets to achieve, that's what you'll be working towards. And that could also affect the hot topic of your probation.
Mm. Yeah. Interesting. Clearly, there's so much to talk about when we think of probation. Now, you did mention a very critical thing, which is most people just rush to the salary, and I must admit, I'm that culprit, right? Because for me, the first thing I want to know is I already know what I applied for, right?
Yeah.
And then I also know maybe what I'm bringing to the table. So once I'm given a letter, I rush to see the salary. So when I see the salary now, I'll be like, okay, now let me see what I need to do in line with this particular salary. And for me, again, that just like it's an indicator. It motivates me to read the entire contract, because if the pay is less, I'll be like, so then why should I, that kind of thing. But it's sad to know that most people don't even care to read what every other detail of the contract has. Before you know it, Basaina, they give the bosses and stuff. 3 months down the line, they get to see things that they don't agree with, and now they're like, what's the meaning of this? Then the bosses are like, that is included in your contract. Yes. So I think it is important, because before you sign, you even be able to have a discussion with your employer to say, I'm not okay with this. Can we do this? How come this can't change? Is there room for negotiation? But you can't do all those things if you haven't really taken time to read through. And maybe it's because the documents are always thick.
They are very thick.
It's like it's a module on its own, So
usually, that's the way it is, especially from the HR side. And those documents, they are bulky for a purpose. Some of them are, depending on the company, you can have a company that puts all these things online and so on. But there are a lot of commitments that you as an employer are actually making. So some of those things, the documents will have maybe even your code of conduct, what is expected of you. And that's why you just be there signing without understanding what this document is saying. And then tomorrow when you do something wrong, then they say, hey, Bwana, here, section 5, or clause 2.5, it was very clear that you shall be required to do this, which you are not doing. And this is where sometimes it's very funny, because you see an employee saying, me? No, nobody told me. But boss, every page you signed here. But really, as we said, it's a requirement that the employer explains these things to the employee. But we are emphasizing to employees, take your time, read. And usually they'll give you maybe 48 hours or 2 days to respond. Some companies will say within 24 hours, others will give you 5 days, others, they can even give you a month, those who have the luxury of time. But usually there's a requirement that they give you time to respond. And talking even about salaries, I like the part you brought up. Sometimes there are two things that happen. Some companies, what they do, they get a lot of conditions, benefits, and they load them towards the salary. Okay, so maybe just as a simple example, a salary would normally be maybe around 7,000, just as an example. Then they load all these other benefits, which they don't want to come and pay later on. They load to a salary, you find your salary is 15. So without again reading so much, you just say salary is huge. Oh, very good. You sign. Then at the end, now you are expecting to receive certain things. Only to be told, but we are paying along the way. So it means the things we talked about before in terms of your career management, you have not had the time to actually plan even for what happens when this job ends. Because you are expecting maybe to receive certain payments at the end, but actually they were paying you along the way. Also, the other thing that happens sometimes, some companies, they reduce the salary. So this is why we always tell employees, take your time and read. So the employer can give you a lower salary, but then they pay through various benefits. So let's say you are expecting to get a salary of 10,000, just as an example. But you find they are paying 6,000. But then they are paying for your house. They come in the bigger documents. They have put a provision. They'll give you they'll pay for your house. There is a term card for fuel. They will pay for the school children as long as you bring the certificates. Gym, they will pay for gym. There are so many other benefits that the company is paying, but what they are reflecting as a salary is actually a small amount. So this is again why it's dangerous sometimes just to rush to the salary and to make up your mind. No. I remember in the interview when I told you I'm expecting 10,000, but here it's only 6. But maybe you take your time and read what is there. Because when you do your calculation, when you add up the other costs, maybe you find that it's, instead of even the 10, it is coming to 15 in terms of how much the employer is actually spending on you. So that is just an example. So both high or low salary, whatever you are being given, or which is reflected in that contract on the offer, it's important to take time to read everything.
And maybe the biggest question that most people have is, how long should a probation last? Because we've seen a situation where you're employed and then, okay, before I started working here, there was a place I used to work, and they gave us an allowance of, firstly, according to them, probation was going to last for a year, which to me didn't make sense then, but of course I was desperate for a job. So we worked for that entire year, but even after 1 year elapsed, there was no change of, okay, what next? Our salary is going to increase. I literally had to go and ask to say, what's going on? And they didn't even have answers. So maybe you can clarify on how long probation should last, and also what happens after probation is done, because again, we're interested in the salary part.
I know, and for a lot of employees, when they talk, and I know when these messages were coming, the biggest focus is on the salary. Yeah, I mean. So the whole idea is, when do I finish my probation so that there's a salary increment?
Was an employer to extend probation?
Well, there are a number of two things usually. It's a performance or behavior, and I'll explain. As I mentioned, let me just quickly finish on the two models. I know we are running out of time. So this model I've talked about allows you to withhold a certain amount and come and increase at a later stage. Mm-hmm. Employer benefits, employee is happy. The other model is where the employer, if the salary was 3,000 from the day one, they'll give you 3,000, you get confirmed after your probation, the salary remains the same. Okay? For the employer, it means his costs remain constant for that period in the contract. For the employee, you are getting all that you should have been getting from the beginning. So there are others who do different other models apart from these two I've mentioned. I know some places where they actually say, okay, even if we use model one, we'll still come and add. Mm-hmm. But those are the two models that are predominantly used on the market. Now, when it comes to the same probation by law, in the past years, there were a lot of things that were happening. Now, remember, there's the Employment Code Act number 3 of 2019. Mm-hmm. From the time it came into effect, what that means is that for all business owners or employers need to follow what the law says. When the person starts work, two things can happen. Either the employer does not require them to serve probation. For instance, if you poach someone from a headhunted, you don't give them probation. If you may choose not to, or you are engaging them and so on. But for new employees, the employer can put a provision for probation. Now probation is 3 months. During these 3 months, the employer is required to tell you what is expected of you, and by the end of these 3 months, the employer should do an assessment. This is a requirement by law. As I said, when it's law, it's not a good thing to do. It's a requirement, so it's not like fashion. So within that 3 months, before the 3 months ends, the employer should do an assessment and tell you 3 things can come out. Mm-hmm. Number one, the employer finds that your performance and behavior is acceptable, so you're confirmed, no problem. And then we talked about the money aspect, either they increase your comes with smaller businesses, mm-hmm. and sometimes bigger businesses which don't have systems in place. Yeah. For companies that already have systems and they have created certain structures and cultures and policies, so to say, from the very beginning, the employee will be told what to apply to them. That here where I have started, we are starting you on 3,000. By the time you finish your probation, you will be on 5,000. Okay. It's very clear. Sometimes they will tell you from the beginning, this is the salary that you have been offered, and it will remain like this. So they shouldn't be expected. What you are working towards is being confirmed.
Yeah.
Okay. And as I said, because confirmation needs to be done before the end of the probation, your employer should actually communicate to you that now you have been confirmed and the salary is changing, or all terms and conditions remain the same.
Okay.
If you have not also performed or behaved, as I said, there are 3 outcomes. One is where your probation was okay, you are confirmed. Yeah. 2, they extend, or 3, your termination can also come in.
Okay, so due to time, today I really want us to be fair to the viewers. So maybe let me read at least 3 messages.
Right.
Okay, so this one is saying, wanted to find out if work is only employed for 8 months, how to do contributions, NAPSA, NIMA, and the like. Do you understand that question?
Yes.
Okay, maybe you can respond to.
So, like we've said, when it comes to employment, and this is a bigger issue for the HR people and the employers, when the person is starting work, as I mentioned, they should be given a contract. Then there are also engagement forms, and in all those engagement forms, one of the forms that also you have NAPSA forms. This time also, the things are actually done online. All that is needed is the scanned NRC of the person, and they register them on the system. And then, like I mentioned again, that's why it goes back to why we started with the terms of employment. In that contract, it will tell you what your salary is, the basic, and the allowances, and the total full pay. So the full pay, at the time of paying, the employer will have to deduct a percentage that goes to NAPSA, and the employer will also put the equivalent, and that amount is now submitted to, is remitted to NAPSA every month. So that's why it's important that from day one, things are cleaned, things are done in the proper manner.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Richard from Solwezi, Richard Siwila, is saying, I worked for FQM Mine in Solwezi for 12 years, and I was put on medical discharge. After 6 months, I started getting half salary up to now for 16 months. I went to the Assistant Labor Commissioner, nothing fruitful came out from there. We engaged the union at national level, nothing happened still. We are actually 26 of us. How can you help us to get our medical discharge package? Please help us.
Okay, so for such kind of cases, with the number that is there, we will discuss and see how they can be assisted.
Okay, all right. So Mr. Richard, the number that's showing on the screen, after the show, maybe he will contact you. Maybe I put it that way, right? Yes, he'll make a follow-up, and then we'll help you in how you're supposed to go about it. Mr. Mlenga from Livingstone is asking, how do you calculate your gratuity?
Okay, so gratuity, as I mentioned before, it's calculated as 25% of the basic. So if your basic is 100 kwacha as an example, you get 25, is it Tingwe? That will be your gratuity. If you say your basic is 1,000, 25% of that is like 250, so that becomes the gratuity per month. So if you have saved for 10 months, that will be your 250 kwacha times 10, that gives you your 2,500. So it's not complicated anymore. It just takes 25% of the basic pay. That's why I kept on mentioning that the salary in the contract has to be broken down. In the past, there were situations where the contract simply says your salary is 10,000. Okay, it's a block figure. And when time like that comes, when now you have to calculate what is due to the employee in terms of gratuity and things like that, that same 10,000 will serve as the basis. And that's why, because basic pay usually is lower than your gross. So if, for instance, your gross is 10,000, but basic might be around 6,500 or so, then you have these other allowances, or let's even say 6,000 flat, then you have housing, transport, which adds up to the other 4,000 to give you a 10,000. So the 10,000 will be gross, but basic will be 6,000. So in this case, if he's calculating his gratuity, it will be 25% of the 6,000 and not the 10,000. So basically, this is what happens. It's and again, where help is needed, either consult the consultants or the lawyers in his place or labor office, or they can get to be helped. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, today has been an amazing. I feel like time has not been enough. Maybe we need like a second episode of probation. But before we go, maybe do you have any final words in the last 2 minutes?
Well, it's once again to just appreciate being here. It's always a great pleasure, and for the people that are sending in the questions, we'll see how it can be assisted. There is a Ministry of Labour, which is a government institution responsible for assisting on matters relating to labour. For those that require to go to their lawyers, again, they are free to do so. The key thing is just to have an environment in which people work very well. They understand their rights, but as we always say, to every right, there are obligations. So for employees also, we encourage them to understand their rights and as well as know their obligations so that they can contribute to the growth of their companies as well as to the nation. And I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate the 15th Council for the Zambia Institute of Human Resource, being led by Mr. Kelvin Shamizinga. We just arrived. We had elections on Friday for the new council to take us forward in terms of HR practice. And I would also just like to encourage all HR practitioners in the country to really be registered with the Institute. As we always say, it's a requirement by law now, under the ZRIM Act number 3 of 2022. So that then they are also being helped, so that they can also help the employees in their various institutions.
Yeah, well,
thank you.
On that note, thank you very much for always just giving us this type of knowledge. The truth is, I've not been the same since we started this show. My knowledge scope is broadening, and I would urge my boss to be very smart, even as he takes certain decisions when it comes to do things with employment. Yes, because now I'm having a better understanding of what I should be or what I should expect as an employee. So
that's very
thank
true.
you.
And thanks for that feedback. And we also appreciate all those who are giving us feedback on the various platforms. Follow us on the Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, where we continue sharing. And some of the things we have already been sharing before. Thanks a lot.
All right, and on that note, we've come to the end of today's episode, but don't feel bad because Labour Matters will be coming your way every Sunday from, what time is it?
14 hours.
From 14 to 15 hours every Sunday. So always make a date. And for those of you that still are bringing in those messages, don't feel bad. We'll be able to sort out the questions that you have next week, just like we did this week. For those that took time to actually make sure that they write to us and just tell us the feedback, we are very much grateful. And the conversations, like Mr. Kabanda has stated, do continue on other platforms such as Facebook, TikTok, everywhere else where you can find Mr. Kabanda. Maybe you can mention how they can find you on those social handles.
Yeah, it's just the same name. Actually, just even if you just go to Google, just type in Owen Kabanda, it will bring you to all the. We are on LinkedIn with over 33,000 followers worldwide, and it's a great platform. Facebook, you can also just look for Owen Kabanda, you'll find it. TikTok, same.
Okay. All right. I hope, just like me, your knowledge scope of Labour Matters is equally increasing. Now, I'll keep emphasizing, it's not just the employees that have rights. Employers do have rights as well. And as Labour Matters, that's what we'll be advocating for, right? We are both on the side of the employees and the employer. Exactly.
So both have rights and both have obligations. And that's what we'll be talking about in these sessions, so that there's clear understanding of how best both can get really the best out of the employment relationship.
Okay, thank you very much for staying tuned and watching Labour Matters. Please don't go away because my colleague will be coming through with one of your favorite shows, Rumor Has It. So stay tuned to the finest television station.